Hey, I'm Nicole, and this is World on Fire, where I read climate news so you don't have to. I spent the past few episodes giving you a more detailed explanation of things that are going on with climate, so let's mix things up. Here's a bunch of climate stories in quick blasts. Quiblabs. Should I get a counter for the number of Quibi references I make on this show? I think as we get farther and farther away from Quibi, they're gonna become less funny, but eventually we're gonna hit a point where we're so far away from Quibi that they become super funny again. Anyway, let's talk about climate. Bad news for me, because thanks to climate change, New York will keep getting hotter and wetter. Hell yeah, New York! The city that never sleeps is now the city that never stops dripping. One popular mechanism for addressing climate change is carbon offsets, where polluters who either can't or won't stop emitting pay somebody else to be a little bit more eco-friendly. Whether that's getting somebody else to emit less, or sequestering carbon by planting trees, or rebooting Captain Planet to inspire us all to start recycling again. Let me write the pilot. Sustainable stoves, which replace more polluting cooking devices in developing countries, are a really popular form of carbon offset. Unfortunately, a new study shows that the carbon offsets of cook stoves have been overstated by 1,000%. Overstating effectiveness by 1,000% should only be something that happens on my resume. Apparently, projects were allowed to overstate how often people use the stoves and the resulting benefits. Look, guys, you can't just lie about how effective your products are to seem cool, okay? That's Elon Musk's thing.
A Tesla Cybertruck had to be rescued.
Even though the majority of Americans agree that the climate is changing, what we should do about it is still a partisan issue. And while the majority of Democrats list climate change as one of their top priorities, it is absolutely last among conservative Republicans. That means that most people in Mississippi care more about what genitals the M&Ms have than whether or not their house will be underwater. Focus, guys, come on. That same article also talked about Joe Biden's admittedly flawed but still landmark climate legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, which made improvements to the electrical grid, incentivized solar and other renewables, and created a bunch of green jobs. But if you've never heard of the IRA, well, you're not alone. Just 36% of surveyed voters had heard a lot or some about the law. 4 in 10 had heard nothing at all. How have I had to learn everything I know about the royal family against my will, and we can't use those same strategies to get people to learn about a policy that will give them money? Can we please get the same people who forced me to know what Kate Middleton wore in her college fashion show to start shoving the Inflation Reduction Act down people's throats? Also, this is the outfit that made her a princess? This looks like a mistake. Of course, some of the people who don't have anything nice to say about the IRA are those aforementioned Republicans, who are using Joe Biden's climate and energy policies to attack him before the election. Take, for example, West Virginia Senator and woman whose haircut looks a little too much like mine for my comfort, Shelley Moore Capito. It's not the same, is it? In a recent speech, Capito said that the administration's climate and energy policies were, quote, not based in reality and were raising prices and killing jobs. Republicans hate it when you kill jobs because then they can't complain that no one wants to work anymore. Also, what do you mean that IRA policies aren't based in reality? This is all normal, boring stuff. Wow, a $7,500 tax credit? A home energy rebate program? A 15% corporate minimum tax rate? Oh, we're really down the rabbit hole now.
Everyone's mad here. We're renewing tax credit 48C.
And Republicans have vowed to fight as many climate policies as possible in the months leading up to the election. When Louisiana Representative and Sleepy Tom Cruise Garrett Graves was asked what policies they were going to target specifically, he said, "They seem to come up with bad ideas on a regular basis, and that I think there's a buffet right now." Look, to be fair, a buffet is incredibly distracting. My sister could tell me that she's pregnant, and if we were at a buffet, I would not hear a single word. I'd be like, oh, awesome, you should name it mac and cheese. And it seems like climate has a marketing problem in general. Listen to this from NPR.
The majority of Americans are aware of climate change. They just don't see it as an urgent issue.
Yeah, America's had its check engine light on for like 50 years. Hasn't broken down yet. Let's see how far we can go before it overheats. And yes, okay, I did consider the implications of using a car metaphor to talk about climate policy and whether that keeps normalizing cars, but when you think about it, America is so reliant on fossil fuels that a gas-guzzling car is really a perfect metaphor. You can get away with anything if you call it a metaphor. That'll hold up in a court of law.
Nicole is not a lawyer. The legal advice offered here does not constitute legal advice.
But as long as we're talking about language, let's take a look at the headline that NPR used to share that story. Experts are urged to better translate climate science so people can understand it. It's a pretty interesting choice persuasive headline for a story that says, actually, people do understand climate change. They're just wrong about the timeline. And yeah, I know that most reporters don't pick their own headlines and the editor's gonna do it to get clicks or whatever, but I don't know. I just don't think that headlines like this are super useful for somebody scrolling through the news on their phone. I think it actually kind of scares people off from trying to learn a new thing or jump into a new subject if they think it's gonna be really hard or take a lot of brain power to figure it out. Like, that's why I still haven't watched Tenet. I don't know, maybe I would find it super easy to understand, but everything I hear about it is like this.
This song is from the soundtrack of a movie called Tenet. Anybody see this shit? What the fuck was going on in that movie?
And it's like, I don't have time for this right now. I'm just gonna throw on an old episode of Moonlighting. Side note, I just started watching Moonlighting and it is awesome. Wow! Anyway, I think that making climate information understandable and accessible is really important. That's like the whole reason I'm doing this. Well, that and the incredible fame and wealth that come with having almost 300 followers. But I also think that sometimes the way that even like well-meaning people talk about climate change can be kind of counterproductive. And if you want to learn more about how the ways that we talk about climate change can slow down climate action, check out the podcast that I co-host with Climate Town's own Raleigh Williams. That's it for this video. This is my first time doing this format, so let me know if you like this like quiz-blast style, or if you want me to go back to longer explanations, or you like a mix of both, or whatever. And if you want me to keep you updated about climate news, don't forget to hit like and subscribe below. Oh, I forgot to write like a pithy ending for this video, so I guess just watch The Daily Show on Comedy Central. Jon Stewart's back.